Hello everyone at Mayfield. I'm sorry I'm not sending you this video from somewhere exciting or up a mountain, and I'm actually just in a car park, but being a writer is busy and you have to get your jobs done when you can. Thank you for your questions. I've got them on my computer here. I'll give them a go. How long did it take to write The Boy Who Biked the World? Each of my books takes roughly a year to write. The trouble with The Boy Who Biked the World is that it was my first children's book, so it actually took me about 5 years to find a publisher who thought it was a good idea and who would agree to turn it into a book. So it was quite a long process, but my rough rule to myself is to make one book every year. Hardest thing about turning your adventure into an exciting story? The hardest thing is probably knowing what to leave out. I had to turn 4 years of cycling around the world into 3 fairly short books, so there's so much I had to leave out. And what you end up doing is you end up squidging lots of stories into one story. So for example, I could have written about lots of times I camped on some beautiful mountain and had a lovely swim in a river or something like that, but instead I just chose all of the memories of that in my head and tried to squidge it up into one really exciting, interesting story. You don't need to say the same thing lots and lots of times. That becomes boring. How do you choose vocabulary that makes the story interesting? 2 things for making interesting vocabulary. I think it's important to write the way you speak, so you don't use really long words when a short one will do well. But also you need to use a nice variety of words. If someone keeps telling the same story and they keep just going over and over and they say "and" all the time and then they do this and then this happens, it gets quite boring. So just like telling an exciting story to your friends at lunch, you need to break things up, break the rhythm of it up. But I try not to be too fancy in my words. And the best way to learn lots of good words is to read lots of books. That's the best way to become a writer. Which leads to the next question. Where do you get your inspiration for writing from? Well, before I wanted to be an adventurer, I wanted to be a writer. I loved reading stories of travel and adventure, and it was all those books that got me excited and curious about the world, got me reaching for my globe and looking for adventure ideas. So reading books is what gave me my adventure inspiration, and has also taught me, I suppose, how to do any writing that I do. Favourite book I've written? It might be The Great Adventures, which is a new big children's colour book I've done, simply because it's the first time I've worked with an artist. It was really hard work trying to share my ideas with the artist, but I also really enjoyed working together. It gets a bit boring and lonely being a writer, and it was visual, it looks really nice, and also I won a prize, my first ever book prize, so I'm proud of that one. How many countries have you visited? About 90, which sounds like a lot, but it's less than half the countries in the world. There's a long way to go. The best and scariest country you've visited? Best places and scary places are often quite similar, I find. And often places that you think are going to be scary, maybe you've seen on the news as having wars or problems, turn out to be very kind, welcoming places, just with crazy governments doing crazy, horrible stuff. So I really don't often get scared. Best countries, I mean, I loved Sudan. It's a good example of one of my favourite countries and one that I was worried about. So maybe I'll choose Sudan as one of my favourite for that. How did you feel when you left for your adventure? I felt very scared, very lonely, and I really thought, there's no way I can cycle around the world. This is a really stupid idea. I think that was the scariest moment of the whole journey, actually. Favourite book as a child? Oh, I used to love reading books as a kid. I loved the Willard Price adventure books. I loved the Secret 7 books. And I used to love the comic annuals called The Victor Book for Boys. Yeah, I really liked those. Alf Tuff of the Track. Do you have a favourite children's author? Roald Dahl. He's brilliant. 50, 60 years later, Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator still makes me laugh out loud. He is brilliant. Favourite experience from going through Africa would be the kindness of people. It wasn't a scary experience. It was a friendly, kind, welcoming experience. So just being invited into family homes up and down Africa and just to experience normal people's life, that was my favourite part. Did you try any unusual foods? Yeah, lots. Goat barbecue, very delicious. Boiled mice, very disgusting. Sugar cane, a big thick cane, looks like a stick you chew. Delicious, rots your teeth. All the kids in Malawi chewing away and they've got brown, rotten teeth. Oh, I love Africa, I really miss it. Did you learn any new languages? I went to so many countries, which is great, but it meant I was passing through so many languages. And South Africa on its own has got many official languages. So there's so many languages to learn. So what I try and do is just learn enough to be polite everywhere that I went, all the different places. How old was I when I started cycling? I learned to ride my bike when I was probably 5 or 6. My dad let go of me. I went zooming down the hill, smashed into a gate and smashed my nose, and there was blood everywhere. My first adventure. But probably when I was about 8 or 9, I used to play with my friends and cycle around the village and learn to do tricks and trying to learn ride no-handed. So probably about the same age you guys are now. That was the age I really started to enjoy the excitement and the freedom of cycling. What inspired me to cycle around the world were the books that I'd read of different adventurers and different travellers, and just making me think, wow, there's an exciting world outside of England. I want to go have a look at it, and a bike is the best way to go do that. The favourite animal you saw in Africa? Oh, that is my alarm telling me that I have to go do a very boring phone call, but that's fine because we have 2 more questions. Favourite animal you saw in Africa? You can't beat an elephant. Wow. Massive, wonderful, wonderful. Oh, wildlife is so beautiful, but I also love small wildlife. You know, in Africa, dung beetles, they're about this big, and they roll up poo into quite big balls and then shove them off for miles off to their dens to go and eat them. And it's a bit weird, but it's fascinating. There's so much variety to the world. What do you do when you find writing difficult? When I find writing difficult, I just write. I force myself to write, even though I know it's rubbish and I might throw it in the bin. I just start writing, and then soon I realise the excuses in my head have gone, and I'm just writing. Some days that doesn't work though, and then I tend to go for a run, climb a tree, go for a swim in a river, or when that really doesn't work, I have a cup of tea and I sit down and read poetry. That's such short, simple but beautiful writing that teaches you a lot about how to write well. And I like drinking tea. Thank you for your questions. I'm really glad you read the book. I hope that you're enjoying it, and good luck with your own writing and good luck with your own adventures. Now wish me luck on this very boring phone call. Life's quite boring, even as an adventurer sometimes. Bye-bye.